Welcome to Peep Show episode 37 of Bare Naked Bravery. My name is Emily Ann Peterson, and today we're going to be talking about rituals and how they can build your bravery with intention. Before we get started, I have a couple of announcements to make, as always. Well, first of all, if you haven't listened to the show a lot or ever, and this is the first time here, welcome. We are talking about bravery a lot. And I reserve some weeks, rather than talking about bravery with someone else, I kind of give you a brain dump of what I have been uncovering myself in my own personal bravery. Sometimes that means I'm being vulnerable in ways that, or like revealing the ways that I am brave in my own life, and it's kind of raw. But today we're going to do something different. We're doing a teaching little peep show. So, and the reason why we're doing this, of course, is because it ties in with stuff that I'm going through this weekend, as we are speaking right now, as this episode gets published. So before we get started, quick announcements. I am talking about this stuff because I finished, let me just say this. We're talking about the rituals and how that relates to bravery, because I did something really brave this past week. I submitted my book's final manuscript to the formatter, and which means that I can no longer make any changes. I can't make edits. I can't make switches. I can't, I even finished thinking out this podcast episode and was like, this should have gone in the book. But I can't, it's too late. I drew that line in the sand, and that is a really brave thing to do, first of all. Secondly, the stuff that is inside this book is really raw and really vulnerable. And so pressing send on the finality of pressing send on that manuscript made me so nervous. I was so nervous. If you want to celebrate with us in the release of this book, it's going to be out January 28th. And we're all really excited. It's called Bare Naked Bravery, How to Be Creatively Courageous. And so the reason why we're talking about rituals is because after I submitted it, I told everyone about it. I announced it on Facebook, did a short little Facebook Live in the Bare Naked Bravery community. And then I went and did a couple tequila shots just because why not, right? And it got me thinking about, of course, because of how my brain works, it got me thinking about, wow, when we do something brave, we especially if it's something really, really, really brave, we go out and we celebrate. Sometimes that means you go out dancing with friends. Sometimes that means you have a massive dance party after a wedding. Sometimes that means you give yourself a micro pat on the back after you send a small, brave email to somebody. Or let's say another really brave thing to do is sometimes getting a divorce. So after the divorce papers are final, some people actually celebrate that. Or some people celebrate the fact that they're now healed from the brokenness of something in their life. So oftentimes these rituals happen after moments of bravery, but I got to thinking, I was like, why don't we do rituals before moments of bravery, especially the seasons of bravery that we know is going to happen? So let's just say someone just got diagnosed with cancer and they're facing that moment, or that really big uphill climb that they're going to take in the next year or two. Is there a ritual of some sort that can help bolster some of that bravery and build some of the bravery out there? So I asked myself that question, and over the weekend, I created it. So it's not quite ready for public consumption just yet, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a peek into what that would look like. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today a little bit. If you want a free copy of the ebook, before I move on, if you want a free copy of the ebook, then you should go to emilyannpeterson.com and add your name to the list, because the ebook, when everything is launched on the 28th of January, the ebook will be free for a couple days. And if you want that ebook for free, then you need to be on that list to get a reminder. So that's what that's for. Second announcement before we go back into the ritual land of rituals. We are opening up Bare Naked Bravery to become a publication, which means that you have the opportunity to submit articles and stories and pieces of artwork to be part of the Bare Naked Bravery community, like publicly. I think a lot of bravery is putting yourself out there, and I've been racking my brain about how to incorporate that process in our community in a public way, because yes, the Bare Naked Bravery community is a safe place to encourage each other, but at the same time, I wanted to provide something to you guys, or a way to have you guys do that in open air, like in the public. So it'll be an online publication, and we'll have more details about it coming up. But if you're interested in becoming a regular contributor, please send me an email, hi@emilyannpeterson.com. Send me an email and I can give you some more information about that. But basically, the publication is just going to be a collection of articles, stories, artwork, creative thoughts on the stuff that we talk about here in this podcast. I want it to be personal stories, so not just teaching stories, although that is also welcome as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. Very, very, very excited. It always feels good to me. It always feels really good to be generous. And that is this, like, opening up Bare Naked Bravery in a public way for our community to become and have their work seen by the rest of the world. That feels really good to me. So I hope it feels good to you too. And if it does, you should join us. Okay, so let's jump into rituals. So, I mean, rituals, I think, is kind of I hesitated using this word because it sounds really like witchcrafty, and that's not necessarily what we're talking about. Although, I mean, I guess it could be if you really wanted to go all the way into it like that. But what I see here is that we have everyday rituals, and we also have special occasion rituals. And our everyday rituals would look like things like brushing your teeth before you leave the house, or making a cup of tea before bed, or calling a friend, or calling like a specific friend on the way home from an event, like calling your spouse on the way home from work. Or it could also be turning on or off the lights in your office. Like maybe that's like an unintentional everyday ritual. So sometimes these things are habits, but there's usually, like, what differentiates habits from rituals to me is that habits don't always have intention behind them. Rituals usually start with intention. But here's the thing with rituals. I've noticed something like, let's say, the ritual of attending an Easter Sunday service at your grandma's church or something like that. That is a ritual. There's intention in there. The start of that ritual had great amounts of intention. But the more that that ritual is repeated, what ends up happening is that the intention can kind of morph and change, especially as you pass a ritual on to someone else. So for instance, your grandma might have started going to church on Easter Sunday to celebrate the death and rising of Christ in the Judeo-Christian belief system. But if you don't believe those things, then maybe your intent of attending that service is to just cherish your family and spend time with them and smile at the nieces. And that is your morphed intention from that same ritual that someone else started. Does that make sense? Okay. But that doesn't just happen from person to person. It can also happen within you. So for instance, let's say brushing your teeth right before you leave the house. That is a really good example of, you started that because you don't want to have bad breath before you leave for work or something like that out in the rest of the world. But the more you repeat that activity, it ends up becoming more than just erasing the bad breath, and turns into, oh, this is me starting my day. This is how I start my day. Does that make sense? So you can sometimes repeat something more and more and more, and it actually builds more intention or changes intention and becomes more meaningful for you as you repeat the ritual. Okay, so you can have national rituals with kneeling or standing during the national anthem. You can have relational rituals like putting on a wedding ring or getting married. You can have career rituals, so like shaking hands after signing a deal with somebody. You can have spiritual rituals like lighting candles in a menorah or Advent wreath. I mean, every area of life can have rituals, and you can create rituals for your own life as well, which is kind of how this whole new workshop that's going to be released in the next week or two, it's kind of how it got started. Because I was thinking, wow, here we are going into this season of the end of the year, the new year is starting. There's a lot of holiday things happening. There's a lot of things that we do all the time or every year on the dot, as the date arrives, we do the same thing every day. You wake up, you check the stockings, or you wake up on Christmas morning and open the presents. That's a ritual. And I was thinking, well, wonder if we could specifically, yes, we celebrate after moments of bravery, but can we celebrate or can we prepare ourselves for a forthcoming season of bravery with a ritual? And it's time. Let's make it happen. So I think what I want to say about these rituals, specifically in regards to how someone might be able to use a season of bravery ritual, is that, first of all, it can look however you want it to look. It does not have to be specific. It does not have to even be exactly what I outline or suggest in the workshop that I'm building. It can just be simply taking 2 deep breaths before you enter an office or a meeting or something like that. As long as you are doing a physical act and have that extra jolt of intention built into that physical act, that is totally fine and doable. Some people take that ritual and build it into a physical object. For me, what I have done in times previous, I know I talked about this. I think I've talked about this before on the show. If I haven't, I'm sorry. Oh, but I'm going to tell you about it anyways, so I'm not sorry, because retract that apology. So when I was teaching, and sometimes even when I'm still giving consultations to this day, if I am having a season of life where I know I need to keep my boundaries pretty obvious, or in times where I feel like I need to make sure that there is a clear cutting of the cord, basically, between myself and whoever I'm speaking to. Because I'm just the type of person that will have a conversation with somebody and then I'll end up thinking about them for a very, very, very long time, like 3 or 4 days, and just keep coming up with ideas or encouragement for them. And that's a really good thing, but it's for them. For sure, it's a good thing for them. But sometimes that's really exhausting for me, especially if I'm talking with a lot of people in a given week. So I was given the suggestion by a mentor to have a candle that I light before and after every session that I give. This advice was given to me when I was first teaching cello lessons full-time, and I would, as a new student would come into the door, I would just, without saying anything about why I was doing this, I would just light a candle as they came into the door. And then the candle was lit throughout the whole lesson. And then as the lesson was wrapping up, I would blow out the candle. And I started to notice that my students would catch on to the fact that when I was grabbing or reaching for the candle, their lesson was wrapping up. And that's an example of how this ritual can be transferred from person to person within the setting. But my intention was to signify or signal a beginning and an ending of the lesson. Sometimes when we just go about our day as normal, it monotonizes the whole thing, right? And adding an extra ounce of intention to specific moments throughout our day, it can kind of create these mile markers for ourselves, and also can signal to ourselves that we can move on, we can let go, or we can dream bigger, or we can lean into the vulnerability or lean into the fear or the friction that we're experiencing in our life. Kind of that good on ya or the pat on the back that we need before something is about to happen. So I want to hear from you guys how do you celebrate and experience oncoming seasons of bravery? And then also, how do you celebrate past seasons of bravery? So seasons of bravery that you just completed. Drop into the Facebook group, the Bare Naked Bravery Facebook group, and let me know, because I would love to include your little blurb in this little write-up of a workshop that I'm writing up. And if you're interested in this workshop, you can go to emilyannpeterson.com/workshops and add your name to that list, and you'll get notified when this one is up and ready to go and ready for the public. I am so grateful for this whole experience. I mean, if I had known before I started this process of writing this book, everything that would happen as a result of the choice to write the book, I don't know if I would have done it. I mean, not to say that it's bad. It's very, very good, but it's so good I might not have chosen it for myself. Do you know what I mean? There are moments, or there are things in our lives that I think that we don't even understand how great they can be. And if we had understood fully from the very beginning, we might not have chosen into it because it was so big and so vast and so wonderful. And sometimes the greatness and the goodness of things can be equally as scary as the impending doom of something, right? So I am just so grateful for everything that we have experienced as a community in the past year. And as we are wrapping up this year, I'm going to be spending the next Peep Show will be wrapping up the year and doing a lot of really good shout outs to folks in the community. And so I want you to keep your ears open for that coming up in the next couple weeks. And we also have really wonderful conversations about quantum mechanics. So cool. But quantum mechanics, and about how rest is very, very important for seasons of bravery. So keep your ears peeled for that. And with all of that, I just want you to know that we really do need your bare naked bravery. And it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be imaginative. It's okay to be improvisational, because those things make up bravery, and we need it. We need your bravery.